I think that, this company was invented as a motivational tool for people and tool for to retain people in the company. And yes, if you the trick with equity is that to make most of it, you have to join a smaller company on an early stage, because the earlier you join, the cheaper equity actually costs and the more you get. And if you stay long enough, and then if the company grows and becomes successful, you can become rich.
Equity, finance, money, pharma, health tech, non-clinical, being paid well. These are all words that we use again and again and again and again in this upcoming episode. So if you are looking for financial stability in your career move and you want to find out which career options pay well as a doctor, then don't miss this episode. Let's face it, burnout amongst doctors is sky high, and we're actively seeking other ways to make the most of our transferable skills beyond the usual career pathways. Welcome to Disrupting Doctors' Careers. I'm your host, Dr. Abena Bubbs-Jones, and I'm on a mission to connect 1 million doctors across the world with the best in diverse career opportunities. Hi, welcome to today's episode of Disrupting Doctors' Careers, and we have a treat guest for you. It's none other than Dr. Anna Klepchukova, who is the Chief Medical Officer of FloHealth. So we'll be talking a little bit about what she does, but today's discussion is focused on alternative careers for doctors that pays well. Yes, pays with a P. We are talking about money. So I always say, none of us went into medicine because we were really passionate about earning a lot of money. Otherwise, we would all be in the finance sector or hedge fund managers or in banking, right? But especially when you are changing careers, money is an important factor to consider, especially when you have other commitments, financial commitments such as a mortgage, a lifestyle. The cost of living is going up. Inflation is going up. So yes, money is important. And so yes, we are going to talk about that frankly, right? So, because I see a lot of doctors, they just don't want to talk about it, but it is important, and that's fine. So we're going to talk about what types of alternative careers for doctors actually pay well, worth going into, and that will help support your financial stability plans. And Anna, who has got a wealth of experience moving from clinical medicine to non-clinical, and is a leader in a whole variety of ways, which we'll find out a little bit more about. She's got a broad range of experience in different sectors, so she can join this conversation to help us answer that question. So welcome, Anna.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. And the topic that we would be discussing today, I think that's what actually pushed me to changing my career from clinical into big pharma and then IT. So when you invited me and you announced the topic, I was very excited to discuss it because I have many stories to share.
Awesome. And yeah, especially at a time, you've just moved to the UK, and consultants, at the time of this recording, consultants in the UK have just announced they are planning to strike over pay. And this is after junior doctors have been through a number of days of striking over pay. So this is a really pertinent discussion. So let's start with, as I say to Anna, this is all going to be mainly about you and your stories. But, it's a conversation. So tell us a little bit about your general career thus far. So tell us about your first move from the traditional clinical career, and why was that?
I started my clinical career as a doctor in intensive care and anesthesiology unit. And it actually was the most well-paid job in the hospital. So when I was choosing my specialization, I was looking at different, areas where I could where I could work. And I think a deal breaker was to learn that the head of intensive care unit has the highest salary in the hospital, and I was thought, okay, probably.
So, I was
it's a
say,
good.
remind us, where are you from?
I'm from Eastern Europe, from Belarus, so I started my career in Minsk, and I think I was always keen, not only helping patients, but also earning something for myself. So like, I think for many doctors, there is a bit of maybe not a shame, but a bit of a confusion to put on a table their actually dreams about earning money, or getting the life that they want to live, and supporting their families. So I think for me, I admitted that like I really want to work, and to help people, but also to have some financial stability for myself. So I think I realized it early on. So I started there, and I think for the young, I think I've had the same problems that most of the young doctors faced when you have this, like your income doesn't match with the prices for rent. And then you don't have much of the budget left after you pay rent, and doesn't give enough freedom and satisfaction. So I started looking in different directions where I can earn, and there were different ways I could do. I could probably spend more time, gain more experience, and then enter private practice, or maybe start my own small healthcare clinic. But at that time, I was excited about, trying something new outside medicine, and pharmaceutical business looked very interesting because I thought it's a big impact. You join a company that creates medical drugs that you use in a clinical practice. And I was very curious to understand how drugs are designed, how they're produced, how they're distributed. So I gained additional education in marketing and sales. And I joined a pharmaceutical company just to see and try without giving up my clinical experience. So at night I was working in a hospital.
Right.
And during the daytime, I was working in the office of a pharmaceutical company.
I just wanted to stop you there, just to go back to something that you said, that you did some additional training in marketing and sales. So what gave you the foresight to say that was actually important as part of your career move?
Well, like when I started to go to interviews to join Big Pharma, I just realized that, they're asking me questions that I have no idea how to answer. So they were like financial terms, sales, marketing terms. And I realized that, I spent so many years in medical school, but I actually don't know what is net income, what is cost of goods, what like marketing strategy. So I felt like I need education, and I joined a business school, and I also then acquired certification from Chartered Institute of Marketing here in UK.
Wow.
And it really helped me to understand world of marketing, sales, and money better. Because like the kind of education we get in the medical school, at least me, it was a bit one-sided.
So like very one-sided, yeah.
So I know biology, I know chemistry, I know like how the body works, but I had no idea how money works, how sales are done, how business is done. And it's a different area of expertise that I think is really useful for day-to-day like life as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think a lot of doctors, especially those listening to this podcast and those moving to industry, realize that there is this skills gap or knowledge gap, like you've just described, where the healthcare and the actual doing of the healthcare, but not anything around the business side of things. So you've listed, marketing, sales, finance, management, lead, all of that stuff that you really have to seek out yourself if you are serious about going into those industries. And I think it's quite interesting that you pick that up in your interviews, especially in the pharma sector, where again, a lot of doctors don't necessarily associate needing sales or marketing or even finance to really get into pharma, because it's kind of the closest thing to clinical that a lot of people will look at going to do that's non-clinical. So I mean that's fantastic. So how did that come across in some of those interviews then?
Do you mean like how did I realize that I lack knowledge?
No, well, no, you think you covered that more about, since developing all of those skills, um, how did that put you, how did that come across moving forward? So did you notice a difference in how people received you in interviews, the kind of people you worked with, and did it leverage your career path to say where you are today, the fact that you had already had that quite a good foundation of, say, business knowledge?
Yes, of course. Like I felt immediately, when you join a company or you try to join a company and you know what you're talking about, you like they ask you questions. Okay, what would you do with this product? How would you sell it? What kind of marketing strategy would you propose? And when you know the answers, you can, when you, what, when what you are talking about is making sense, of course, it's much easier to get a job. And now, like, I'm now in a position of a top manager in a med tech company, like a health tech company, FloHealth, as you mentioned. And um, I run a medical department. And although, like, sometimes we have open positions and there are really nice clinicians who want to join, who have deep knowledge of reproductive health, uh, this is not enough to join Flo, because you have to have knowledge of marketing, product design, business, because just knowing how to treat endometriosis wouldn't help you to build a health tech product to treat endometriosis, for example.
I think that's the key point there, actually, and thank you so much for illustrating that. That especially now, there's a lot, a lot of competition amongst doctors about getting into some of these. I mean, every other doctor I know wants to get into health tech, and so the advice we give is like, how can you differentiate yourself from other doctors, and what can you offer beyond being a doctor, right? And yes, it is those skills and knowledge and appreciation of actually you're not only going in with your clinical knowledge, but you're going into a business, and this is what businesses need. This is a knowledge that they really need you to have foundational appreciation of. And most of these things, like doctors do learn very quickly, especially in a supportive environment like that. And this is one of the things that we also talk about, because we have this incubator for doctors who are moving to industry, and we cover the commercial aspects as well as a core part of that, alongside money. So going back to money, I feel like we've slightly digressed, but there's really interesting points that you've raised there. So going back to a career in pharma and money. So again, a lot of doctors actually, they choose careers that they know are going to be relatively lucrative. So is career in pharma really as lucrative as they paint it?
I think a career as pharma is interesting, but I believe there are no good or bad jobs. I think everything starts with understanding who you are and what you like to do in your life. And even in pharma, there are different, like I would say, 3 different pathways that you can, or even 4 that you can, you can go. And I would tell from my own experience. So if you want to move out from clinical work and earn more money, if you don't want to stay in private medicine or start your own hospital, and you want to join pharma, you have to understand like what kind of person you are. If you're more into science research, you can join like R&D department of a big pharma, and then you will be involved in developing new drugs, designing research studies, and so on. If you feel like you're more into like guidelines, you are more creative, you want to work with marketing team, you can join like medical affairs department. And the job of medical affairs in pharma, I'm a bit simplifying it because it depends on the company, but in general, like you will have a position of a medical advisor, and then you will be helping business to create maybe advertisement based on the guidelines, some materials to promote the drugs, and so on. And you will still be very medical or very science if you join scientific department, but you will be in the business. And I'm almost sure that your salary will be higher, and you will not be exposed to pros and cons in medicine. Like you will not be seeing patients, you will be home at 5 or 6, depending on your working schedule. You will sleep at night in your bed. So there are pros. If you feel like, if you were a kind of person who feels that medicine is not enough, like, some people want to become T-shaped. They're very creative. They're interested in sales or marketing, so they can acquire additional specialization in sales or marketing and join marketing and sales team. And to simplify, I think like the nature of marketing is to understand what the client wants and how to package your product.
Yes,
to help the client solve his problem with your product.
Yes.
And if you feel you understand people, if you feel you're creative, you can become a product manager in marketing. Of course, you would need additional education, because marketing is a separate way of how to say occupation. People study marketing for 5 years. You can't go out of the hospital and become a good marketer, but that's another pathway. And the last one would be sales. So if you feel like you love talking to people, you love face-to-face interaction, you've been selling lemonade or sweets when you were a child, and you've been making your own small business, you love this, you can go directly to sales. Of course, also maybe having additional education. So all of those areas are well paid, but they're different.
Which is the better paid ones? That's what we're all wondering.
It depends. It depends on the company. It depends on your position, and it depends on how good you are. If you're a best sales manager, you will be earning more than a marketing director who is like not really good in a not really good company. So it's like
I was going to say, sorry, at the end of the day, a lot of these roles, they don't necessarily have the ones that doctors do, they don't necessarily have the word sales attached to it. So, and I think this is one of the problems that doctors realize, especially when they first join pharma companies, because initially it's like, well, as a doctor role, I won't have to be doing sales. But sales actually could be a very important component of that, even if you want to, stereotypically a rep, right? And that's why having those skill sets is actually seen as a value add, because as you know, doctors are expensive and pharma companies really want to get the value from you. So, I mean, what value do doctors bring in pharma, health tech products? What is it that companies are saying, yes, I will, this is why I'm going to pay for this at such a high level?
Well, doctors have a knowledge of medicine, and you can't acquire knowledge of medicine just reading a book or watching a couple of videos. It's like it takes years. So like there are positions in pharma that needs you need a deep knowledge of medicine.
There's medicine and there's clinical. So like what is the difference? Because obviously we see a lot of healthcare professionals who are going into health tech pharma. What really makes doctors stand out, beyond that?
Again, it depends on the position. Sometimes you don't have to have 10 years of clinical experience and be an amazing surgeon to become a marketing manager in big pharma. No, you just have to have basic knowledge of medicine and, know how body works, know biochemistry works and medical guidelines work. But for some positions, I don't know, if you are like a medical director of a health tech company developing some surgical tools, innovative, probably you have to be a good surgeon to say what was wrong with your tools when you were a surgeon, how you can innovate, what can you offer to the market. So I would say it depends on the position. And, like in IT, there is an approach of continuous testing. So my advice to anyone who wants to move from clinical work to some other industry, go and talk to people, try free jobs, try project-based jobs in different companies, in different countries, if it's possible, of course, and then you will feel where you belong, because you'll never know. You have to be really like very self-aware, very experienced to understand, okay, looks like I will be very valuable for this company, but like you have to try different things to understand who you are and where you can be more valuable.
Absolutely. Self-awareness is actually one of the most important things that doctors should, and especially they're going to industry, invest in. And that's something we talk about a lot, increasingly a lot. I can say from a personal perspective, someone who has both therapy and coaching and mentoring, again, as a way of understanding myself better, because obviously that has an impact on what I achieve, what I do. It's something that I think doctors organically, and it's not something that they really do. But as you know, a lot of us, especially as a result of the last few years with COVID, have become burnt out, institutionalized, overworked, overstressed. And, they do need that support to actually make a success of their career, make the impact they want, considering all the other stuff that's probably going on in their heads. But yeah, so I mean, we've talked about pharma, we've talked about IT. And actually, let's talk about health tech, because obviously you're in this role, a senior leadership role now, which is really exciting. But just generally talking about earning a lot of money in health tech, because obviously health tech, I'm talking about career-wise or salary-wise, because obviously health tech is a relatively new sector in itself. It's still emerging. You have early-stage companies, you've got venture-backed companies, and there's always a concern there's just not enough money swilling around. So for doctors who want to go into health tech, again, this is a very broad question. What kind of salary expectations should they look for or expect, especially in leadership positions?
It depends on the company, because for Apple Health it would be different from a startup who is sitting in the basement and just starting their journey. And in health tech, there is a component of salary and also equity. So you may get not only salary but also like stock options that are actually you can then sell them for quite a lot of money if the company becomes successful. So it's different.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. I was going to say, because again, because obviously you and me were in the space, we understand all those terminology, but perhaps most doctors, especially if they're not entrepreneurs or in the business space, really understand what equity is. So should we talk about that a little bit, and actually how that translates to value for a doctor going into health tech? So yeah, would you want to? So from my understanding, especially as a double business owner in two businesses, equity is basically a part of your company. So ownership of a company. So you could join Apple, for example, and Apple says, we want you to stay for as long as possible. In order to do that, we're going to promise that you will get a certain amount of Apple as long as you stay X number of years. The longer you stay, the more of that bit that we're promising you get. That's what they call kind of options, and that converts into shares. And at some point, either sometimes when the company is sold or it goes public, which has mean that it goes on the stock market, you can get the value of whatever the company's, whatever your slice of the company is worth back. And that can be in cash most of the times, that can be transferred to other things. But is that what, do you need to add anything to that or correct me?
No, you're absolutely correct. That I think that this component was invented as a motivational tool for people and tool for retain people in the company. And yes, if you like, the trick with equity is that to make most of it, you have to join a smaller company on an early stage, because the earlier you join, the cheaper equity actually costs and the more you get. And if you stay long enough, and then if the company grows and becomes successful, you can become rich. But it's again, it's a luck, like it's a risk, and it's a lottery, because out of 10 startups that get investment, only one actually survives in 5 years. So it's a lottery. So you have to believe in the company that you're joining. But then in the end, you can benefit from it. But I think like what we missed here is that you've been asking about numbers and salary expectations. And I think that probably people would want to hear the numbers. So like we've been doing...
Let's do it.
salaries differ, and they depend on position, because there are market benchmarks for salaries. And if we talk about, if you're a doctor who became a iOS developer or a data scientist, you can earn up to 200,000 pounds per year. But like, let's talk about roles that are more or less connected to medicine. So it's like maybe research scientist, medical advisor, medical director. So I would say in health tech, benchmarks would start maybe from 40,000 if you're joining, up to probably maybe 90 if you are not on a manager position, but you're very senior. But depends on
And
the company.
these are in companies who have had at least a certain amount of funding.
Of course, now it's
realistically,
not a startup that is
yeah.
barely surviving. And then like maybe you can, if you're a manager, you would earn around 100,000 or 150, depending on the company. But to be honest, it's much more it's better in terms of money to become a data scientist or iOS developer or infrastructure engineer or security. Now security engineers are very well paid. So I would say that in health tech, people who are not tech are paid less than tech people. That's the reality that we have to accept. So, and I wouldn't say that health tech currently pays more than pharma. I would say they are more or less the same. Just because pharma is more profitable. I don't think we can compare. I don't think there are any health tech companies. I mean, not pharma, but like tech, purely tech, not medical devices, that earn more than traditional pharma, who earn billions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, like most of these pharma companies, the pharma sector is very well established. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
We've got global franchises and et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, but I mean, tech is still emerging. But that's interesting that, you see this similar salaries in both how do you say, companies that have a certain level of funding, usually Series B plus. Okay, cool. So like, any other, so beyond health tech, anything else you can think of where doctors are paid very well? So one of the things we talk about is setting up your own business, whatever that is. Consulting is, I'm saying, setting up your own consulting business as a solopreneur is another way you can earn a lot of money quite quickly, potentially. And the key within that is not actually what you're doing. Well, A, you have to be solving an expensive problem for the clients that you're targeting. And B, you need to then be charging. And I talked about this in a podcast on health tech with Alice McGee, is the type of pricing or pricing strategy that you employ. And if you want to earn a lot of money quickly, I say quickly, but earn a lot of money but not work loads of hours, one of the things we talk about is premium pricing, which is where you don't charge by the hour, which is a conventional way of doing it, but you charge by the value that you're providing, the value in the service that you're providing. Again, that's another way that you can actually start earning a lot of money without basically having to do billions of hours and work for yourself and choose what you want to do, etc., etc. And actually, it depends on when this is going to be released, but we teach this in the Doctors in Industry Incubator, and we also do this in a masterclass on non-clinical consulting, because most doctors don't know how to work for themselves. They don't know how to get started. And I think it's such an important skill that they need to learn. Did you ever work for yourself?
I'm doing consulting. You're doing it
now?
In health tech, but like I never worked for myself when I was in hospital, and I would say I never even dare to think about it. So I don't know the way, I don't know how education works here in UK, but the way like I've been taught is that like it was very straightforward. Like you come to the hospital, you do your job, and then they give you like this amount of money by the end of the month. So I was never thinking of outside the box. What else can I do? What else Can I offer it to people? Can I start a private practice? I was living in the world of dreams, I think, before I joined the industry. I didn't know how money works. And I'm still learning. I think I spent in health tech and pharma around 10 years in total. And before that, I spent most of my life in medical school and working in a hospital. So I'm still more of a doctor in my brain than a business person. Let's see if it's going to change.
I think it will inevitably, because do you do any clinical work at the moment?
No, not anymore. At some point, I had to make a choice because I couldn't work, for years, like at night in the hospital, and then during the day in the office. It was just too. When I was less than 30, I think I could do this, but when I was getting older and older, my health it wasn't sustainable. So yeah, I had to make a hard choice. Although I still miss medicine, and probably I would never get those emotions that you can get when you save a life of a patient who is really damaged and in severe state. You will not. For me, salary, business achievement, they never been a bit like such a boost of. They never caused a boost of dopamine that helping people did. So I still miss medicine, but business is really interesting area also.
It is really interesting, always changing, constant challenges, constant problem solving, all this uncertainty, but a lot of fun doing it. And then, one of the final points we're going to discuss is, how can, so I mean, you can earn a lot of money, and that's great in whatever lucrative career that you've decided when it comes to career choices. But how do you make sure you keep that money and B, really maximize it to its full potential? So, I mean, have you got any, because again, like, this is a thing that we see again and again. I speak from a personal perspective as well as seeing hundreds of thousands of doctors and knowing what the sea change is that as doctors, we don't have the vocabulary of money and finances. It just doesn't come to us naturally. And we're not known, I mean, again, broad brushstrokes, we're not known to being great with numbers. So is there any other ways that you can think of whereby once you earn that money that you have the best chance of doing the most with it, so that you are living a financial and sustainable life, where if there is a point where you're not earning for whatever reason, or you decide to take a break, that you're not 100% reliant on working and not taking a gap between jobs, kind of thing? Have you got any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, that's the question I'm thinking about now, heavily thinking about the future and how to ensure that I have financial stability. Well, I think like for me, like the trick is that of course I have to earn more than I spend, and like starting with basics, like looking at like how much I spent, what are the most like the biggest expenditure items for me, and then thinking about like, can I pay less for my rent? Can I, maybe move to cheaper location? And then the money that I save, I think if you're smart enough, you can probably start in your own businesses or investing in the companies, which might be, triple your income. But I think maybe a simpler advice would be just, bank deposits, saving accounts, investing in low risk instruments like S&P 500. So like my advice would be start reading about probably low risk, well-known, well-established instruments like bank savings and investment in low risk financial instruments on the stock market.
Okay. I mean, like, at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, I think that's really good. And well, technically speaking, we are not allowed to be giving financial advice.
Yeah, of course, no.
just to clarify, we are not giving financial advice here. In case
it's a disclaimer,
we are not FCA regulated, and we're both doctors here, so we are not the best people. But yeah, that is an option of actually getting financial advice to then decide what works best for your financial situation. So many of you would have heard of a number of different financial advisory companies or organizations. So I always say to everyone, get an independent financial advisor who can then let you know what are the best options that work with your personal situation, because everybody is different. But that is number one thing. And number two thing I always advise is, especially if you are changing careers, you're moving to industry or becoming self-employed or even employed, I say get an accountant because they're going to help you in the tax, particularly the tax side of things. So your biggest outgoing in life, other than your mortgage, is going to be your tax. So why would you not want to proactively manage that?
Amazing, amazing, amazing observation, not advice, or
yeah, observation. So I say get the right advice. Just like, if people come to us for medical advice.
Oh yes, I was just going to say this.
So people go to financial advisors and accountants for financial advice, right? So it's the same thing, and it's again an amazing investment. Accountants aren't a lot of money in the great with reference to the amount of money that you can save. Same goes for independent financial advisors. So I always like to hone in on that, how important it is. So it doesn't matter whether you're on a 250K, 500K salary. If you can't manage your money, it's like a lot of stuff down the drain and a lot of financial responsibility that you can't upkeep. That's all I can say really about that. But it's important. So if there's anything you remember from this podcast, get the right financial advice.
Yeah.
And don't get it from another doctor.
Yeah.
Unless they're qualified in that. So yeah, have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. And I think it was the place for you to say that's the good financial advisor. Yeah, and maybe to sum up about potential opportunities for the doctor, I think if I could give myself an advice, old me, I would say that just first you have to make a hard choice. Are you ready to give up clinical career in medicine and all the years you invested in your education and stop being a doctor? So if you are ready, so there are a lot of opportunities what you can do in life besides medicine.
Mm-hmm.
You can become an engineer, you can become a designer, you can become a businessman, I don't know, a blogger, anyone. And there are many ways to earn money. If you want to stay in medicine and somehow be exposed to patients, probably doing your own clinical practice would give you more money. Maybe relocating to a country that pays doctors more, like US, Switzerland, Luxembourg, they have higher salaries, is an option. Maybe going to work in, Dubai, where they love doctors from Europe and the salaries are higher and taxes are very low. Then if you are ready to give up 50% of your medical career, maybe forget about the patients, but still be exposed to medicine, then pharma, biotech, research, health tech, that's an option where you're still a bit of a doctor, but maybe not a doctor anymore. So you're in between. So there are many avenues you can take in changing your career. And I think what changed over the last 30 years, maybe the doctors who are now 50, 60 years old, they were not even trying and thinking that there is something else outside medicine that they can do. And for our generation, our life expectancy is longer. The world is changing. So why not try to live different lives? To work 10 years as a doctor and then work 10 years as a blogger and then 10 years to be, I don't know, someone else. So world is different now. People, companies, they really value T-shaped professionals. And now
what I was going to say, what does T-shaped mean?
T-shaped means that there is a doctor is a I-shaped professional. He knows only medicine well. T-shaped professional is someone who knows something outside medicine. So a doctor who knows data science, a doctor who knows marketing, a doctor who knows how to do YouTube videos. So that's the T-shaped. There are also M-shaped people who have more pillars, like 3 pillars, and there are triple. Yeah, and I see that companies are now looking at people who have experience outside one area, because all innovations, they happen in between. So you can get rich or you can innovate when you take, for example, you take an idea from one industry and then use it for another. For example, Uber, like they took an idea from traditional transportation and they took tech solution and innovated.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of examples. So that's why T-shaped people are so valuable now, because they know problems from one area, solutions from a second area, and they can offer ideas that are changing the world and ideas that are helping to solve problems.
Absolutely. I think those are really great examples. And my last thought, we've talked about changing jobs as a way to find a well-paid career. How about in current job? Maybe not if you're in the public sector, because you can't. You get told where you're paid, not the other way around. You can't ask.
You can strike. You get told but we're not advising. We're not advising to strike.
Yeah. Well, I do that. Yes. Strike. Strike's another way of trying to get paid more, but it won't work. Not in the shorter term, anyway. But another thing people can do, doctors can do, particularly when they're in the industry role, is ask for more money for their current job, right? And I think, again, it's not something that we're used to doing, because we're used to just being told what we will be paid. But one thing to also consider, especially if you are looking for it to increase your income, is to ask for more money for either the current job you're doing or get a promotion.
Can I add my 5 cents as a manager here? I get requests from people who want to earn more. And
yes, of course.
And as a manager, I can tell you how it feels. So I would say just coming and saying I want to earn more is not as effective as coming and saying how can I earn more? Like, I want to increase my salary. How can I earn more? And I think like a healthy manager, a good manager would say, amazing, you want to earn more, and we have like a challenging project that you can own, you can drive, and then you'll get a rise or a promotion. Because just coming and saying I want more,
give me more money, because
probably it might work in some cases, but it wouldn't help on the long run. But how you can get a really good advice from your manager or people you're talking to.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's very important to have that as a proactive, ongoing conversation rather than a one day, hey, can I have some more cash? But one of the things I was going to say is also about really understanding what your value is to the particular company or the team, and how you can say, in working with you for the foreseeable future, I can also add this value. What do you think about that? Would that be worth more to the team, et cetera, et cetera? So have it as a collaborative conversation rather than just, can you give me more? Unless you're referring to inflation, for example, where you say, actually, my salary is worth more now. Can you increase that? So yeah. But anyway, I think we've come to the end of this really riveting discussion about the M word for money. It's been great. It's been really insightful, and really want to thank you for your time. And if anyone, Anna, wants to get hold of you, what's the best way of doing that?
I think you can contact me in LinkedIn and then have a look
at your profile. And awesome. All right, thank you so much, Anna. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was an amazing conversation.